Good afternoon, or good evening rather. Welcome to Grand Lake Township Board of Directors meeting for November 1st. If we can all stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Robertson, can you call the roll?
I would be happy to, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo?
Here.
Trustee Fife?
Here.
Trustee Raritan?
Present.
Trustee White?
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Here.
Myself, of course, I'm here. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. If somebody wishes, Dr. Reardon makes that motion.
Motion by Raritan, supported by Fike.
Correct.
Very good. Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fife?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, and at this time, we will open the floor for public comments. We just ask that they be kept to 3 minutes or less. And if you could give us your name and address for the record. We didn't bring the cards over here, so. let's see.
My
Good
name is
evening.
Michelle Ryder. I live in Grand Lake Township.
Michelle
Ryder, R-Y-D-E-R.
R-Y-D-E-R.
I came here tonight to talk about social responsibility, specifically as it pertains to this community. On July 19th, I filed a petition to recall a Grand Lake School Board member who was charged with 8 felonies related to her role in a false elector scheme aimed at overturning the 2020 presidential election. I consider holding elected officials accountable to be part of my social responsibility, particularly those who help guide my kids' education. We started collecting signatures on September 15th and have consistently maintained an 80% signature rate of the people who are asked. The support from the community has been massive. Unfortunately, we have yet to see one elected official take a public stance on this issue. I realize that this board as a body can't take an official position on whether or not Ms. Faschinello should be recalled. But as leaders in our community, it's important that you're actively engaged. And I would argue that part of your social responsibility is to support and respect the sanctity of the election process by taking a stand against something as undemocratic as the stealing of votes. Democracy dies when good people do nothing. And democracy dies when our elected leaders allow other elected leaders to circumvent elections while remaining silent. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make a comment this evening? Give us your name and address for the record. That'd be great.
Emily Monteroso, 6176 Kingshire in
Okay,
Grand Lake.
Mr. Clerk Robertson would like to.
The last name again, I'm sorry.
Monteroso, M-O-N-T-E-R-O-S-S-O. S is like Sam.
And your address?
6176 Kingshire
Kingsshire.
in Grand Lake.
Okay.
Township. Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to first thank our community for coming together tonight, and I apologize for my tardiness. I was in the wrong building.
So was I.
But I too am here to speak about leadership. I know from experience that children look not only to their parents, but their greater community, and that it's the adults that we choose to surround our children with, not just ourselves, that influence who they become. My neighbor has gotten my daughter more passionate about softball than I ever knew was possible. And that's because an adult in her life has influenced her. I know, as a parent, I do the best I can to influence my children, but it's truly the community I choose for them that goes that extra mile and enforces or undermines what I say. And I am saddened to say that I believe my beliefs and what I am trying to teach my children is being undermined by a member of the Grand Lake School Board. I look to the community that I know stands with me to reinforce to my children what is right, what we do believe in as a community. We believe in democracy. We believe that the wheels of justice are entitled to take their time and entitled to give people the chance to defend themselves. And while that is happening, my children are watching to see if their schools are a safe place. I fully support the Justice Department taking their time to do things accurately and respectfully. But as a community, we need to send the message to our children now. You know, my child will be graduated long before the justice system probably makes a decision in this case. So I look to my elected officials and I look to my community to send that message to them in a more timely and efficient manner. I encourage you to look at the facts that are out there and to take a stance not only on the issues at hand in the recall, but just the issues at hand with how people are being respected or disrespected in our community who speak out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make public comment? Okay, seeing no further public comment, we will bring it back here to the board. And at this time, we will have a privileged presentation by Ms. Ashley Warner from Rose Pest Solutions and giving us the end of year or end of season update. I mentioned earlier, I don't think I've seen any mosquitoes in the last 24 hours.
I killed one in my house this weekend, so
Yeah,
they're still trying
Still
to hang
around.
out there. So if anyone doesn't know me, my name's Ashley. I run the mosquito program for Rose Pest Solutions for the township. This season we began April 17th, started with our larviciding process, treating the areas of standing water, things like that where the larvae breed. This year we applied 11,022 ounces of granules and a little over 5,700 bricks. The bricks are what we mostly use in the catch basins throughout the township, but we also use them in the large bodies of water that tend to stay all season long. We did the catch basins in mid-May, about the second week of May. We continued through the season and performed individual property fogging and the barrier treatments. We completed 763 barriers this year. That's about 300 or 400 more than last year. I would contribute that to the fact that we usually have about 400 calls around Memorial Day. We had that same thing happen again at the end of the season due to all the rain that we had. It basically rained every day for, I feel like, a month. But we had another round of calls come in towards the end of the season. Unfortunately, we weren't able to complete all of those calls. Out of the 901 individual calls that came in this summer, we left 107 open at the end of the season. It was strictly due to just the weather events not allowing us to do what we wanted to do out there, plus the demand a little bit there. We completed 6 rounds of testing for West Nile virus, and we found no positive cases. We collected samples every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from the 14 light traps to monitor the population. Towards the end of the season, that did trigger some fogging, as well as I chose to fog the entire township towards the end of the season because I knew we weren't going to be able to complete all of the calls. So I wanted to at least get everybody in the township fogged at least one time. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to go over. I will say that we had about 400 more calls this season compared to last year.
So Ms. Warner, I realize it was much wetter this summer and fall than probably typical, and that's the reason for the volume of calls and the volume of larvicide used, right?
Yep, yeah, we used about 2,000 more ounces of larvicide, which I would contribute to the end of the season rain.
Right. So what date does the program end typically that we have?
So the last day in September, it typically ends.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something we issue to the DEQ and MDARD before the season starts. So
Okay.
if we continue to get like
longer years where it is warmer into October, we may start looking at extending that date out.
Okay. In Saginaw, did you extend the date, or?
We don't do any townships in Saginaw, but we didn't extend the date in any of our townships.
Okay.
What we give to the state in January, that outreach that I give out that tells the dates, I can't move that, that has to stay.
Alright. Somebody, called the resident and said that, they had called, Rose and that they were told that, we decided to end the program or something like that, and I said, I don't think we decided that date.
No,
Cause they wanted to continue what happened, and I wasn't sure how that date was set or determined.
yeah, that date is a date that we set at the beginning of the season, cause typically it's too cold going into October for us to do any work.
Right.
This year it was different, I mean, it continued 2 weeks into October.
Sure.
We've also had a couple townships that are asking for us to start earlier in the year, and so I can speak with you guys on how you feel with
Okay.
that. We can set the dates differently.
When do we start the program, March?
So we start April, or the third Monday in April, and we start fogging the week before Memorial Day.
Okay.
You can change that kind of thing, as long as we set it with the state beforehand.
Okay. And, okay, anybody have any questions, Ms. Warner? I gotta tell people that, if they think the mosquitoes are bad this year, imagine what it would be like without the fog. They were bad throughout this area of the state, I don't know.
Yeah, down south was really bad. Both of our townships that we have down here, cause we have Mundy Township as well, they were both experiencing the same kind of volume of mosquitoes. We were out checking tracks and getting ate up, and we were just trying to do our best to knock them down.
Sure. Okay. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Warner. I don't see any other questions or comments. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll be in contact. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Somebody wishes to make that motion? Okay, Ms. Hugo makes that motion.
Hugo makes the motion, and
Supported by Dr.
supported by Raritan for the consent agenda. Trustee Fike,
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes,
7-0, motion passes.
thank you. Under old business, we're going to get a strategic plan update with regard to branding and signage. Ms. Robbins here for that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In your packet, there's enclosed information on the accomplishments that we've had on branding, and we have gone over those recently. The things that we have coming up, a recent accomplishment is the sign ordinance, very recent, in the DDA area with regard to I-75 frontage for light industrial, so they can have their signs a little bit larger so that they can be seen. Some other signage that we have coming up here is, we're getting quotes on signage for Benton and Hill, and some signage for Bicentennial Park. Just wayfinding signage, sometimes hard to find, maybe the North Pavilion as opposed to the South Pavilion, so just that sort of signage. And then we're also looking at, what was the other place we're looking at signage?
We're looking at, by the Chase Bank.
Yeah,
right
it
at the
completely
point.
went out of my mind there,
Yep,
thank
at the
you.
point. Building on
At Chase
Saginaw.
Bank. Yes, so, and then obviously our big project will be more, overpasses, but that is, a future project, so.
So on Hill and Fenton, looking at maybe using what's existing there now, as maybe a base or something along those lines. And using our logo for the signage, but basically branding Greenland Township when it's the busiest intersection in the county, so. Mr. Fike?
Regarding the Chase Bank, you been in contact with them, or they wanna play ball with us on that?
We've tried to contact them and haven't gotten any response, so we're gonna continue to do that.
The only response I have received is that they would be willing to work with us, actually. I think, you had checked into it, Mr. Kilmer.
The guy that runs a couple of ranches now for them, he's a good friend of mine.
Okay,
And we had actually a little repair done on the one
Right.
sign we have.
Yes.
Right, it looks better.
And they were, I just mentioned it to them and they took good care of it, so.
Very good care.
Yeah, I think we will have a positive
Relationship,
relationship.
yeah. So when we're ready to look at that a little bit closer, we'll get in touch with Mr. Kilmer and figure out who we need to talk to on that.
Absolutely.
So right now, I think we're just getting some designs and some ideas, right? Prices,
Quotes, yeah.
yes. Mr. Fike?
So long range, something on I-75?
Yes, long range, some sort of, overpass signage, whether it's on the actual overpass or at the side. And this is actually something that we've been discussing,
Yeah.
you know,
For years.
yeah, and with, you know,
Yeah.
recently with the county.
Well, and, you know, Mr. Limita and Ms. Roberts and I were talking and brainstorming on it, and, there is the need for a non-motorized, area going across 75, a couple different places, where the road's just not wide enough for that. And if we could ever, put together the funds to do a non-motorized, walkway over, we could put the signage right on that at the same time that we built that, rather than
That would make more
have to
sense.
reinvent the overpass itself, so.
Right,
You know, with our DDA, we never envisioned that, I don't think that it was gonna grow this quickly, and that we would have the source of revenue for that area that we are. I mean, we spent a considerable amount of money from the DDA, revenues, for paying for Baldwin Road. But in the future, we may have funds for some things like some non-motorized pathways and, or maybe even, who knows, maybe, a walkway over the expressway. And we could do the signage with that.
Yes, but that sounds like it's so many years in the future.
Well,
Shouldn't we
look-
do something along I-75, like a monument sign or something, or could we just not have the funds for that?
Actually, we've investigated it, and I wouldn't rule it out, but a couple of these others are some low-hanging fruit. We got some money in the budget, and so right now we're just looking at, I think we have, a little bit less than $40,000, and we were looking at how we utilize that. Actually, I did investigate, one community that had, something as far as similar to what we could put, like maybe in the right of way. And I mean, it's much more than that, it's probably closer to $100,000 that you're looking at. But I think it's something worthy of pursuing. But right now, I think, just in the immediate future, I think we're looking at, you know, how do we maximize this money for, you know, most visibility. I'm not saying this is the only sign, you know, you talk
Right.
about lighting the water tower at, what will be Tech Village, right? I mean, it's very visible, and that'd be even more visible than having a roadside, you know, and even less maintenance than having landscaping and all that.
Well, I appreciate the effort at Hill and Fenton, because it's what, the busiest intersection in the county?
Correct.
So a lot of eyeballs go past there. But
Yes.
if we could get something on I-75, like I see in so many other jurisdictions, that says, hey, welcome to Grand Blanc Township.
right, and like I
Something
said,
long range, I get it, it costs money, but let's talk about that, you know?
Sure.
And we have,
Sure.
it's in our plan, I believe.
it is, it's in the plan, and like I said, we were actually just having this conversation, last week with, you know, the county, about, you know, MDOT and coming together and working together as a county in making some of these happen, or some of these things happen, and revisiting what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, any other questions or concerns with regard to signage and branding?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Okay, item B, the board will consider a motion to adopt the road maintenance funding policy. Mr. Limita?
As talked about at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we've gone through and cleaned it up, and the board's discussion, we had combined them. You'll notice that this evening we separated those so that the first item on your agenda in regards to road signage is the special assessment resident-initiated districts. And for this evening, last 2 weeks ago when you saw them, it was kind of like step one, step two for the board initiated. We've separated those as two separately distinct policies for your consideration. The first one is the same policy that we've always followed. 51% of the lineal footage for resident initiated, they come in. Again, the township's role in this is to verify, assist with the petition, assist with the meetings, verify that the 51% at least threshold is achieved for us to consider moving forward, and then we act as the financing arm. Why does the township do this? Because we do have the ability, if somebody doesn't pay, to put that onto the tax bill so that we are guaranteed that we can recoup the funds. It does offer a mechanism for subdivisions to get their streets paved. Having it separated, I think, might make this easier for the board to consider these instead of as one policy, but as two separate policies. And tonight we're asking if we got it right, for you to consider approving the policy as written, or offering some more additional feedback on what you might like to see us change.
Mr. Fite?
All right, the current policy states either 51%, and then they can do this already, whereas they, they can go back if it's a no or no.
I'm not sure I followed it, but, so right now, currently, policy, they get 51% and, we move forward, right?
They get 49%,
Then we don't move forward.
and there's no redress for them currently.
Well,
It's 49, it's 51% or nothing, right?
Right.
And the question is then, what is it again,
So-
Dennis?
So this first policy that we're looking at
Yeah.
just includes that, the 51%.
Right.
What we did is we separated out the policy that would allow the board, or put it in our policy anyways, it'd still be allowed, but it puts it in policy that township board could initiate a special assessment district. At that point, residents could collect 20%, gets 20% of the signatures in that neighborhood to oppose the special assessment. But we separated it out into a second proposal. The first proposal, Mr. Leamington, is pretty much same as what we've had, correct?
It is, and all this was an effort to provide some clarification to the process. So if you read through this policy, it's not a departure from what we're currently doing, but there was some language cleanup, and what we really try to do is clean it up and then change some of it we had before, that it would be spread over 10 years. We've changed that, working with the Genesee County Road Commission, that depending on the type of repair, if it's complete rebuild and they've got a 20-year guaranteed life, that we're willing to spread the repayments out over 15 years. So more of that was some cleanup language. Also in here was that a timeline to circulate the petition would be 180 days with possible extensions depending on the time of the year. The reason we included that in the policy this time was if we have somebody go out that starts circulating a petition and it takes them a year to circulate the petition, the danger there is there could have been 5 homeowners who have changed hands, and we're moving it forward based upon a year-old petition, and it would no longer qualify as 51%. So we tried to put a time frame in there. Obviously, we could adjust the 180 days. It's why we left the relief valve if they needed an additional 30 days, and we could verify home ownership and then grant that additional 30 days. But that was the kind of cleanup that we did in this policy.
Well, in this day and age, in a year, the price probably could change significantly too. From the time you get the petition started to the end, if it's a year, probably it's changed totally in terms of pricing.
So are there two different motions here?
There's two proposals. So item B is basically what we currently have, what Mr. Lee was saying, cleaned it up, is in the language. The second proposal is the one that allows for board-initiated special assessments.
Okay.
get suggestions, and input from residents from all corners of the township, and subdivisions that have already paved their streets and some that are in need of it. See what type of, ideas, and also bring the county in on it. Since it's their roads, right? My thoughts are that, I would move forward on item B, which is the current policy pretty much that we're following, that the board initiated. I'd be glad to entertain anybody's thoughts on that, but, my own thought is I would wait on that, but.
I would agree, to be blunt, that, B sounds like, or C rather, sounds like to me, despite the fact that you voted a certain way, we're gonna ram it down your throats anyway, or at least open it back up. And, you know, if the majority said no, it should be no.
Yes,
So-
Dr. Reardon has him, then we'll come to you, Mr. Tillman.
So, item C is if the township thinks there's a danger, you know, for public safety reasons or whatever, that they go ahead. It's not that anybody submitted a petition, but it allows that 20% of the people, or the linear footage can oppose it, and then it stops, and then it reverts back to proposal B.
I think it could be used in either case, you know, if it's a safety thing, we could go ahead with it, or if it failed in a certain neighborhood, a board could say, hey, we're moving forward regardless, or.
Which we could do anyway, right?
What's that?
Which we could do anyway.
We could.
Right.
The law allows us to do that
Right.
now, this just puts it in our policy that we can do it.
Yeah, so, I mean, waiting another whatever, but I think C is a reasonable way to address.
It puts it in policy what we're already allowed to do.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that we're going to, but it allows us, but okay. You're right, go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Kilmer?
I'm not sure how I feel about this, but the thing that I do like is that what triggers activity from us is the PASER ratings. In other words, we have justifiable things that, you know, and it seems like that's probably the number one complaint that we get from residents is that the roads are going to hell.
Right.
And I don't know, if they won't help themselves, I would think that there must be some way for us to help them, as long as we have criteria, as they say, the different PASER ratings.
Right.
And, that's all I got to say.
Right. Mr. Laddie?
So I'm gonna just stand because it's kind
Sure.
of weird to look down the table, but Treasurer Kilmer's exactly right. You already have these, that statute is the same statute, it has the same process already in place, and the proposal for the petition initiated project is what we've been doing. We do them 3 or 4 a year basically, and we haven't, in the past, we haven't initiated any projects on our own. We have the authority to do that. The key, the safety measure for that, or the safety valve, is that if residents oppose that, they can submit a 20% petition and stop us until a positive petition in the amount of 51% is received. The magic that we have with our 51% to begin with is that it eliminates that ability for a 20% petition to stop a project. Treasurer Kilmer is exactly right. You have in the statute, you have the ability to start a project yourself. The danger is someone can commit, or a group of people can come in at 20% and stop the project until a positive petition is submitted as well. The addition of the PASER rating is an objective safety valve, and the other thing you have is that there's been a petition that's failed within the past 24 months. So there already had to have been some resident-initiated attention. That plus the PASER rating gives you 2 pieces of data that might give you some comfort moving forward. Still knowing though, that if 20% of the people come and submit signatures to stop it, then you're dead in the water until you get a positive 51%. So really these things are, you've added 2 safety measures to what's already in the statute. And I just want to make clear that you already have these options available to you, but you've already tried to make it as fair as you can for the residents.
Well, I guess, you know, the idea of having a policy versus utilizing it, you know, are 2 different things. So, you know, we can have the policy there, but it would be up to any future board to decide whether or not we're going to go ahead and enact a board initiated, you know, special assessment district. And I guess that's a different question for everybody. Is if you would be in favor of initiating one.
Yeah.
So I guess having the policy isn't a bad thing. We're not saying that we're going to automatically do that. That may be for a future board to decide that they want to make that. So I guess, you know, looking at it, I wouldn't be opposed to having both policies. What's going to come down to is whether or not this board or a future board wants to decide to initiate a board initiated special assessment district. So, Mr. Lehman, any thoughts?
No, I think, you know, the reason we split the policies is exactly that. Being a policy-driven organization, it's easier for us as staff because we're the ones who are approached by, hey, I want to get my road fixed, what are my options?
Right.
And it gives us the ability to walk somebody through, well, we do have a board policy on road maintenance funding and, you know, it's about the special assessment district. We can walk you through those steps. It also then gives us the ability to say, you know, there is another one, but you're gonna have to get through this first one first before you get there. If you have those triggering mechanisms that we put in there, again, you failed, this has failed maybe multiple times, but within the last 24 months, so that tells us we can't get it on your own, but you're close, maybe you're at 49%, you can't get over the hump. It gives the board, again, you could have always done it, but putting it in policy, from our standpoint, makes it so much cleaner and clearer for us to share that with residents when they come in.
And having the pay-as-you rating in there sets some kind of, you know, standard as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's not just us saying this, we have
Right.
something to actually hold it up against.
And it isn't, you know, a subdivision isn't going to be able to come to us and just say, hey, we want you to do this instead of us going out and trying to get signatures, and then maybe it's a page rating of 4 or something. So, okay, well, it sounds like, is there anybody opposed to having either in policy? Clerk Robinson?
I support item 7B. I do not support 7C. I've spoken on this before during our previous discussions. It really boils down to the issue of are we prepared to impose a special assessment district on a community that has not gotten 50% plus 1 of the signatures. And so I don't believe that can be, even though the statute provides for it, since the statute does provide for it, we do not need to adopt a policy on our own. And my objection to adopting a policy that includes this is that there's a tacit endorsement of the idea of us imposing such a thing outside. You know, it's a reinforcement of what state statute allows, but I don't support the creation of special assessment districts by the board without majority. You know, well, with majority support, it's not. The board support isn't needed. So beyond the regular process. So I support 7B. I don't support 7C.
Well, my thoughts are that it actually makes it more stringent in terms of, at least C does, makes our policy more stringent than state law even. And, you know, with the extra caveat of having not passed their own as well as Pager rating of 2, so, or less. So that's why I think it makes it actually a little bit more palatable than what we're allowed to do by state, because it says we're not going to just be able to do this for just any subdivision that comes to us. Okay, well, I think I don't see any further discussion. So does anybody want to make a motion at least on item B? comments. Okay, and these aren't resolutions,
Motion by-
supported by Hugo.
Supported by Hugo on item 7B. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, item C, the board will consider a proposal to create a board-initiated road maintenance policy. The other one was the funding policy, this one is the board-initiated road maintenance policy. Dr. Reardon, are you making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, and there's support by Mr. White.
Okay. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
No.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, no. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 8 under new business, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of the Almatro extrication combination tool from Impact Rescue and authorize the township superintendent to sign all purchase and warranty contracts.
Good evening, you did a great job pronouncing the name of the company. This is a specialized tool. We do have extrication tools on board our vehicles right now, but they are not combination tools, meaning they operate as spreaders and cutters for taking people out of vehicles or even removing heavy objects off from, away from individuals. So in September, we published bids through my bid to request this type of equipment. We received 3 bids back, one from Michigan Rescue Resources, the other from Impact Rescue, and the last one from McQueen, each of them representing a different type of manufacturer of this tool. After reviewing them and allowing the firefighters to go out and do some testing on it, they all came back and recommended that we buy the Helmatro system, because it's a little lighter weight, a little smaller system that can be used in some confined spaces rather than just opening up cars. And we can use the other ones for that too, but a little lighter weight, but it's a little less fatiguing on the body to use the equipment. So we're asking for us to purchase the units to $14,716, and it is a budgeted expense out of our 2023 capital expenditure budget.
Okay, yes, Mr. Cohen?
Are these replacing the Jaws of Life?
These are considered jaws of life. They're not. We have other sets of life, but this is replacing an obsolete system that we have. It's an older set.
Okay.
It's getting to the point where it's having to be repaired frequently in order to keep going.
Those, for anybody who's curious, the original concept or whatever was, you got Jaws of Life makes sense, but it also stands for Jack A. Watson,
Yes.
who was a Grand Blanc resident.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So kind of fascinating history there.
Very interesting.
Well, he was involved in racing cars.
Yeah.
And there was an accident and the driver was killed because they couldn't get him out of the car. And he literally burned up. And this inspired Jack to create something, a tool.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Used a lot.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, we met him once. When he had his anniversary of making those, that he was at the station.
Oh,
And demonstrated on.
he was right down here on Saginaw Street.
Yep.
It's a funeral home now, but he was in there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, wow, didn't realize that, the inventor for the Jaws of Life.
Yes. Mhm.
He also invented the Hearst shifter.
That's how we got it.
Really?
Yes. That's.
Wow.
First shifter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same guy.
learning all kinds of stuff.
The board meeting. Did you learn?
Yeah.
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor, on item 8A?
Ms. Hugo, are you,
I wanted to make a motion.
okay, she's had her hand up.
Okay, very good.
She has a question.
Motion by Hugo,
You can support.
I will support on item 8A. Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Item B, the board will consider a motion to approve funds to complete the purchase of the fitness equipment for the Baldwin Road Fire Station and authorize the township superintendent to sign all necessary documents. Chief?
Okay. It came before you back in August and requested funds to outfit the station with furnishings and fitness equipment. Unfortunately, at that time, the dollar amount that I was using was not for high-end residential equipment. Unfortunately, that's really not what we need. We need commercial grade equipment, which is be able to stand up to long or multiple users for extended period of time, better finishes and so on. So I'm asking for an additional $10,500 that will be used from the capital fund from the purchase of the first tools, where we get $36,000. We're only spending 14. Take 10,000 of that, put towards the purchase of the fitness equipment from Direct Fitness Solutions for $21,292 for a total amount. But I'm just asking for $10,792 in addition.
Okay, any thoughts or concerns?
I got a question.
Yes.
Now, does the police department have fitness equipment?
Yes, they do.
Is this comparable to what they have?
Yes, it is.
Okay, any other thoughts or concerns?
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Then I will make that motion.
Okay, is there support? Support by Mr. Kilmer.
Support by Mr. Kilmer. On item 8B, Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
I think probably all of you seen the news this past week, a horrific fire township had. And, one of the things that, just to remind our board members that, when you're fighting one of those fires, your adrenaline has to be just going through the roof. And then to encounter somebody that, have a death in a situation like that too, really, shakes you to your core. And so, just keep in mind our firefighters that, go through that, situation, unfortunately, on a too regular basis, whether it's car accidents or fires, but, it's particularly bad week last week with,
It was.
multiple, deaths in one day.
Yes.
It was really a tragic day. I mean, with the car accident on McCandless and the fire on Centerville, so, please, give our thoughts and, concerns to your guys.
They did a fantastic job that day. It was a very emotional day for them. A lot of them have not been involved in a situation like we had that day, but if there's anything out of a dark cloud, there's a little light cloud coming, and, part of the press release that I put out there about getting smoke detectors and alarms put into the homes, I just wanna let you know, since that occurrence, we have been into 9 homes, we've installed 23 additional smoke detectors and a couple CO detectors, and these are all free. You just have to give us a call. We get them from, the state of Michigan. They have it in their line item in their budget to purchase smoke and CO alarms, so it's, I can't advertise it enough. Get those and then get that plan and get out. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Supervisor, I
Yes.
just want a point of clarification to make sure the way it was written, the way the Chief Burdette wrote it in your packet, he had the motion there that was to approve capital funds to complete the purchase, but I wanna make sure that it shows on record that the actual motion was to spend $21,292 to execute that agreement to purchase all of it. It's, we're taking some of the money from what was already authorized in this, but the way it was worded in here, just point of clarification that the motion was to approve $21,292 bid.
Is that pretty much consensus of our board?
It's duly noted in the minutes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, item C, the board will consider resolution 23-35 to hold public hearing number 1 about the creation of the Green Knolls Road Improvement Special Assessment District at a regularly scheduled board meeting on November 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Township Hall. So, Clerk Robertson, does that date conflict with our, well, we're gonna well beyond election with that. 14th.
Well, well beyond the election,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're good.
So there will be in good shape there.
Okay. Any other thoughts or concerns with regard to,
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
it is?
Then I will make that motion.
Okay, and there's support by Ms. Hugo.
Support by Ms. Hugo. Okay. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Fight.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item D, the board will consider a motion to renew the annual maintenance and licensing for the Highland on-base document management software through AM Data Services in the amount of $23,667, and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents. Good evening,
Hello.
Mr. Bluesdell.
Good evening. So this is an annual maintenance that we do every year. It did go up, normally on a normal basis it goes up by 5%. But in this case it went up a little more, 8%. I think it's just due to inflation and things like that. What this software does, allows our different departments to store plans and property photos and blueprints and things like that electronically and be able to access them with integrations to our existing software, like BSNA. Any questions?
Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Yeah. Is there a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
I think Mr. Kilmer is going to make that, or maybe his
I'm not
question.
clear on exactly what this software does for us.
It is a document management system that allows us to store, like I said, those types of documents. It allows us to integrate into BSNA and things like that. So our assessing and our building departments and our DPW can store these plans and pull them up electronically. And as far as what this is an annual maintenance, so it's not necessarily needed for us to continue using this product, so I do want to say that. But here's the reason why you wouldn't want to let it lapse. If you do allow the annual maintenance to lapse, we will lose access to any support, so it's a support contract as well. And as well as upgrades or newer versions of the software. And if, let's say, we let it lapse for 1 year, and we decide that we want to renew it for the next year, you have to pay the previous amount before you are allowed to renew it. So it is kind of a big deal.
Gotcha.
I don't want you jumping in and out if you don't want.
I would totally if they let me.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this work interacts with the BSNA, you said as well?
Mm.
And we'll work with the web-based BSNA?
Yeah.
We're coming along on that, we're on the waiting list, right?
We're a couple months out from knowing official dates.
Right. Okay. All right, somebody wanna make the motion, or Mr. Fike makes the motion?
Motion by Fike,
Mr. White supports.
support by Mr. White. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item E. The board will consider a motion to award Zito Construction Company the contract for demolition and grading the splash pad for $12,950 with an option for topsoil application and grading for $1 per square foot, and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents. Mr. Lehman?
Assistant Superintendent Matt Kimmer put this out for bid. It's the aging splash pad that we were no longer able to operate in 2023 this year. We received, I don't know, 8 or 9 bids back for doing it. And we really need to remove it, whether that gets built again in the future. There's no usable parts or anything on this. It just needs to come out of the ground. Right now, it's pretty much just a rust-colored eyesore. We gave everybody the opportunity. We didn't make it mandatory. We did a walkthrough so everybody could come out. 2 of the bidders did not take advantage of doing the walkthrough. One of those was the lowest bidder. Our recommendation is that you award the bid to the second lowest bidder. That was Zito Construction. That is consistent with your purchasing policy that allows you to award to the lowest qualified bidder with consideration given as a local township firm, as well as past performance. We've had a lot of experience over the years with Zito Construction. We believe their bid of $12,950 is appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish. The bids received, there was one lower than Zito's at $10,000. Again, they did not do the walkthrough, and the high bid was over $40,000. So we believe that the $12,950 is appropriate expenditure, and we ask the board respectfully to approve the motion to award this demolition project to Zito Construction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lehman. Any thoughts, concerns?
I got a question.
Mr. Pike?
So, I thought when it worked, it was pretty cool, especially for little kids, something to do in the summertime. But are you saying, Mr. Lehman, that we simply can't afford this?
We can't even get parts for it any longer, Trustee Fike, so that was the decision. We've kept that thing held together with bubble gum and baling wire for the last 5 years at least, replaced as many parts and did what we could. The age of it, and these things really aren't designed to last as long as this one designed. It really lived twice as long as its design life is for. With the lack of available parts in order to keep it going, we had to make the tough decision. And we agree, we've looked at replacements and have spent quite a bit of time looking through what our potential could be to put it back into the same place. You're looking at probably somewhere between $600,000 to $800,000 for a replacement, depending on what you do, with the variety of deferred maintenance items that we're continuing to address out at Bicentennial Park at this time. While we agree that the splash pad was very popular and we'd love to get it back out there, we currently are kicking around the idea of maybe starting a capital campaign to raise the funds over a couple of years, combine it with grants now that we've taken care of that cell tower mitigation that was knocking us down on points where we couldn't qualify for DNR grants, and being able to put a variety of sources together to replace it, but that's probably 2 or 3 years out. But there's no way that this splash pad that it currently exists can be made operational.
So currently, Mr. Lehman, our parks millage raises approximately somewhere in the range of $300,000 a year.
Yeah, approximately around there, $300,000 to $400,000 per year. We've been putting a lot more money than that into the park, with a combination of getting money where we can get it. We do have still a very good capital improvement plan with the addition of Matt Kimmer coming on board as park operations manager and working with the director of athletics and programming and the maintenance crew out there. They continue to refine that. We want to bring that to the board because we're looking to see where the board's ideas are for the next 10 years and what we really can do with this amazing facility we have. But one of the things, we truly do believe the splash pad is a real asset to the community. There is one, the city has completed theirs 3 years ago. Clearly not the size or scope of what we had out there. But if we can replace it sometime, and the board agrees with like the long 7 to 10 year capital projects plan that we're working on for what we can do out at the park. But there's some needs. The playground obviously is a priority. The South Pavilion is a priority. It's been looked at for many years and we've continued to move along, but we have to upgrade that South Pavilion. We have conversation about getting a sewer main through that property because one of the things we lack in that facility is bathrooms. And when we hold those big tournaments, it's a real issue with septic having to be pumped out 2 or 3 times a day and bringing in a lot of porta potties. So the sewer main will probably be in the neighborhood of $1 million. When we go with the new splash pad, we run this off a well. Clearly with the hard water that we have, a well is not the best choice because it is going to add to the maintenance costs and operation costs. So really we need to look at bringing in water to it with a recirculating water system that cleans the water and puts it back out. There's no shortage of ideas. I think we could easily spend $5 or $6 million out there, but we've got to pace ourselves. Like you said, Mr. Supervisor, bringing in $400,000 a year means we need to take time and really combine it with grants to move forward.
Well, and, you know, I look at our pathways as part of our park system too, right or wrong, but, kind of lineal parks, and, you know, we just spent $1 million for the Dort Highway pathway, and we're looking at $2.5 million for the Embury Cook Road, pathway. So we are spending money on recreation. It'd be nice, I believe, Congressman Kildee was working on some grant dollars for the park as well, right?
Yeah, we combined with Mundy and Flint Township on applications with Congressman Kildee. Obviously, we were very aggressive. I think we asked for $2 million. I think we might be looking at $400,000 when all is said and done for the appropriation, which we will gladly accept the $400,000. It'll help us move forward, but I mean, everything from aligning the road to fixing the parking. Like I said, I think clearly we could probably spend $5 or $6 million in that park just on upgraded maintenance to the things that we have now. And we will get that done. It's just a matter of, you know, priorities, and I think the board really needs to weigh in on that.
Well, the compliments we received on the ball fields are, you know, are very good. I mean, I had several individuals call me this summer and just praise the work that's been done out there with the fields, the fences, the seating, all of that. So I know that we are spending a considerable amount of money out there. It's unfortunate we don't have the $5 million that we could probably throw in there in a hot minute, just doing maintenance and bringing it back up to speed. But unfortunately, we don't have those kind of resources available to us right now. So at this point, the no longer useful splash pad, we're looking at how we clean that up and make maybe some useful space out of that. So I'll entertain a motion if somebody cares to make that. Mr. Fike makes the motion.
Motion by Fike,
Yep, supported by White.
supported by White. Item 8E, trustee Fike,
Yes.
trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo,
Yes.
trustee Raritan,
Yes.
treasurer Kilmer,
Yes.
myself, yes, supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Future agenda items, I'm not sure what we have on schedule for our next meeting, strategic planning wise.
It kind of became a little bit fluid, quite frankly. We had the schedule out, but we want to talk about OPEB funding, and so we are working through that. As you know, we have currently scheduled November 28th as the approval for the budget. There will also be some budget amendments at that time. As we go through those to do the budget amendments for 2023, this is the opportunity. Earlier this year, after the audit, the board had earmarked some of the additional funds from the general fund to be used for post-employment benefit spending on the police department pension plan, as well as potential for retiree health care. You're going to be asked to move those forward, so we thought we would push that up to the 28th, where you'll have the opportunity to make those decisions as you face those budget amendments. So we kind of like to cover that at that time. That means 2 weeks from now, as we're going off our schedule, we can talk anything about the strategic plan initiatives, either that comes up between then and now, or if there's something that the board would prefer to see, we'd be happy to do the presentation on that, or an update on that at that meeting. It is my understanding on the 14th, not all board members will be in attendance.
Okay. Moving on to board reports, anything, Ms. Hugo?
Nothing to report.
Dr. Reardon?
I do have something. I just wanna mention that the executive command challenged the patrol sergeants, who are much, much younger, to fitness at the Bicentennial Park.
Right.
And same events, the older people smoked the younger people.
I've seen running, so.
That could actually run.
And
And do push-ups and roll-ups.
I'm saying that.
Chief Rennie, did I hear you say you want to have a challenge with the retired officers?
Sure, great.
Under 60.
Or the board.
Or the board?
Or the board.
Who are we going to challenge?
The board versus the IT team, that would be fair.
Yeah, we could have the board challenging the department heads or something like that, right? I don't know if all of you made it out to the, fitness court, but, I haven't tried it yet. I've gotta eat my Wheaties before I go out there and use it, but it was impressive though, I gotta say. Okay, Mr. White, anything? Nope. Mr. Pike, anything about the Alliance? Mr. Kilmer, anything, Treasurer's Office?
Yeah, we have, it's our quarterly review or performance report we have in. If anybody wants to see it, they're more than welcome to. If they would like a copy, I'll be glad to furnish.
Let's send it out to the whole board if we could. Is that possible? Just email it out or?
Yeah, this was emailed to us, so.
Okay.
I'm sure we can.
Yeah, let's email it to everybody on our board.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Robertson?
We are here in this room because, of course, because the auditorium is being used for early voting, which is currently underway, and everything is going swimmingly.
There's been several media interviews with regard to it.
Yes, we had one last week, and there was one yet earlier today.
And we're one of how many sites, like 9?
Only a handful around the state. In the there's a few in the Lansing area. The Oakland County is doing one collectively, and there are a few others.
Okay.
I have the full list in front of me.
All right. With regard to a couple of things, just I wanted to mention, great event earlier this week, or end of last week was with Mr. Burpee. We had an unveiling of the plaque out at cemetery on Perry Road. Very patriotic event, Revolutionary War hero, and I would guess that there were well over 100 people in attendance on Friday afternoon. Just a fabulous event. And you mentioned earlier the Jaws of Life. Well, this is the same Burpee family that you probably have heard, the Burpee Seed Company.
Yeah,
Well, this is part of that family.
when I was a little kid, you'd go around and try and sell those things.
Okay. And that's why we got Burpee Road in our community as well, same name, so, quite, event, if we have another one of those for any individual, I'd welcome everybody to attend, it's just very, good event. What else? I think, I don't know if you wanna comment during the report, Mr. Lemata or Mr. Ladd, with regard to Parkwood. I know we have a few residents here and give me a few questions on that, but with that, I'm gonna turn it over to, Mr. Laddie, anything you have?
Well, if you want me to mention Parkwood, I was directed to initiate the service of the complaint that's already been filed. And that is really to make sure that there's some assured timeline and assured commitments for payment of the outstanding balance. And so we've initiated service. I haven't gotten notice that it's been accomplished yet, but I'll also defer to Mr. Lemata regarding the substantive element of that request, if he has anything to add.
Well, Mr. Laddie, I just also, in speaking with residents that called me, I wanna reassure them that the reason why the board is doing this is so that in lieu of us just turning the water off, that
Yes.
our whole goal is to preserve, our residents' water service, but yet make sure that the owner of the park is paying Township for the use, or for the water.
Exactly.
So that's our whole goal, and I think they understand that, but. Mr. Lemata?
I spoke with the owner of Parkwood Mobile and called him by cell phone, and he did come in, or had his management team come in and make a payment 24 hours later. of $10,000. Initially, he had indicated that he would make the $20,000 payments every month until he was caught up. Because we hadn't had a payment in 6 weeks, I reached out to him. Like I said, he came in within 24 hours and paid another $10,000. But that's not quite treading water on what the monthly bill was either. He did indicate at that time that he was working on a different plan that would have us paid in full no later than December 15th. In the meantime, about $55,000 was eligible to be placed on the tax bill for 2023, and we did move those funds over to the tax bill, and they're probably on their way to the printers within the next week. It doesn't preclude us from taking it back off before or accounting for it if he actually does pay us by December 15th. But we're hoping that with the service being issued and by the time they get served and we move to the courts, that the courts will help us. Perhaps the owner does have a plan in place and he's actually going to pay us in full by December 15th. That would be absolutely great news for both the residents of Parkwood and the township. Obviously, our goal is to deliver water to our customers, and while the individuals aren't our customers, but we've tried to make it as easy as possible for them to become current in their payments. Additionally, our new DPS director, Alan Cooley, started on Monday. He's not here this evening, and I told him that we would give him a reprieve and not have him come in on his third day to do a report to the board. I'm sure it's like trying to get a drink of water from a fire hose at this point. We overwhelmed him completely in that first day, just by bringing him through and showing him some things. We've kind of backed off and given him the last 48 hours to actually start to go through some of the policies, procedures, make sure email, that kind of thing works. We're really excited to have him. I think he's going to be a tremendous asset. We're looking forward to seeing him move forward and succeed. We'll also have our new assistant finance director starting next Monday. So we're real excited about that. We've got some big plans, including to start doing a central procurement policy in place where all of our purchasing will be getting approved and run through one department, finance, as opposed to individual departments handling their own purchasing. We think centralizing it will be a tremendous asset to the organization as a whole. We look forward to being able to have a little bit more with the manpower in finance, being able to have a little bit more tighter control. Obviously, I mentioned earlier the budget adoption and budget amendments for 2023 are coming up in 4 weeks. Again, still have plenty of time to talk about any tweaks to the budget as we go through. If the board, as you're looking through it, sees anything that flags, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the department heads. We've got the police department village request on this ballot. We've got 9 days of early voting, so there's really no excuse for any resident to not exercise their democratic responsibility in going out and letting their voice be heard. No matter how you feel about it, whether it was collecting 1 mil, we're asking for a 1.5 mil is the ballot question. It's important that your voice is heard, and we strongly encourage everyone to get out there and talk about the need for the additional $0.5 mil. Feel free to reach out to any of our officers when you see them out and about in the community. I'm sure they'd be happy to have that conversation with residents as well, as any of us would be happy to answer any questions you might have. And finally, on Friday, if you're looking for myself, my management team, or any of the department heads, we are going to have a bit of an in-service training day. We have a gentleman, a facilitator by the name of Lou Bender, coming in to work with us. It's about expectations and leadership. We'll be talking a lot and focused on the traits of a optimal running organization, and kick off the day with expectations for them of me of them. And if you've never had the opportunity to work with Lou Bender, he is a phenomenal facilitator. We're looking forward to that day, but again, we will be doing that over at Security Credit Union in their one of their boardrooms. perhaps it's better to be on neutral ground anyway. We're really excited, looking forward to it. I think this is kind of a township-wide training for our leadership team and an exciting day. But again, we'll be back by the afternoon at some point, maybe 4 o'clock or whatever, but for the day we will not be available if you're looking for us.
Any questions from Shweta? Okay, our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 14th, back in the boardroom.
Is the motion to adjourn in order, Mr.
It is.
Then I will make that motion. Who will second it?
I'll support it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.